What's up, everybody? So today, I'm Jonathan the Baptist, and today I want to talk about winsomeness. If you've been around evangelical circles as long as I have, you've heard the word winsomeness, and it is one of Big Eva's favorite words. If you're not in, if you don't know much about Big Eva, it just means the evangelical elites, those who are, in power. They have, all the control over the evangelical movement. They have all the podcasts, all the stuff. That's what I'm talking about. So a lot of these big guys who are all in collaboration with each other, and they're the ones that everybody reads the articles of and watch the videos and podcasts of. Well, they like to use this word winsome, and anybody. Well, I'm not saying anybody, but there's a big movement away from the leftist cult in the evangelical movement, and there's a lot of Big Eva who still likes some of the ideas within the leftist cult. We don't like, but as the conservatives in evangelicalism, we don't like Marxism. We don't like paganism, and so I don't mind the word. I don't mind the word winsomeness in general, or winsome, but every conservative who has a complaint about Big Eva and how they keep leaning toward the left or adapting these leftist cult theologies, or bought into Marxism, what they'll do is they'll say, "You're not winsome." And it happens over and over and over again. You're not being winsome. And I'm like, it just gets, it's a word that I get tired of hearing. I'm like, what do you mean by winsome? Because and I've actually been called winsome before, and it rubbed me the wrong way because I've heard it so much in the negative sense, but this person was giving it as a positive compliment. So I was like, okay, I need to be careful here because he actually means it in a good way. But others are like, oh no, you're not winsome. And so basically, winsome, like, what is winsome? What does it mean by winsome? And so, it appealing. Basically, winsome means appealing. Someone who is appealing. People are drawn to them, and the problem is it's not super specific. People are drawn to winsome characters all the time who are deceivers, and that's a problem. But Big Eva, a lot of evangelical elites like to have made basically winsomeness into another fruit of the Spirit. So, and not just that, but it's the most important fruit of the Spirit. So they treat it as if you are not showing what they define as winsomeness, which is ill-defined and unspecific, it's just they're that they just perceive the personality like, oh, I just don't think that person's winsome. Well, suddenly you're no longer qualified to have a voice in the discussion because for whatever reason they subjectively ruled you out as unwinsome. And really it just becomes a way for them to cancel anybody that is critical about their Marxist, leftist, unbiblical ideas. And so, oh well, you're not winsome, so we can't, listen to what we don't have to listen to what you say because you're just not being winsome. So come back to us when you're winsome, and of course you're never gonna convince them that you're winsome because you're criticizing what they believe, and the problem is they've abandoned in a lot of cases they've abandoned the gospel for leftist dogma, and it's sad. So I get into a lot of discussions with great friends, people of the faith that I know, who they're not necessarily in like the leftist movement in evangelicalism, but they're more friendly and open to the elites in evangelicalism. So they'll listen to the or they'll read the Gospel Coalition articles, or they'll listen to all the podcasts of some of the big names who are in more of the big elite. And some of them are good. Like, I'm not saying that every person that is like a leader in evangelicalism is bad. I'm just saying that there's a lot of them that either purposely or unknowingly repeat a lot of leftist dogma. And when you're repeating the ideas of a cult, you probably you kind of like on the edge of turning away from Christianity. Like Christians repeat the gospel. They repeat what Jesus taught. They don't repeat a bunch of dogma from another religion. And so what I'll hear from my friends who are more on that side, or more maybe you would consider it in the middle, they're like, well, I don't like their attitude. They just come about it wrong. And I'm like, listen, like, this is wrong. The problem is, a lot of these people, I don't even consider Christian. When you've abandoned the gospel so much that your gospel requires you to repeat unbiblical ideas that are just radical, that's I think you've abandoned the gospel. So if it walks like a duck, if it talks like a duck, it's probably a duck. So when I see these people who like have female pastors, or when I see them and they're following the LGBT club and affirming all of that, or just maybe lightening their step around them, they're not saying they agree with it, but they won't condemn it, or whatever, or they're like, it's just one sin among many, which is true. It is just one sin among many. It is also true that there are other sins that we tend as evangelicals to sweep under the rug, but that doesn't mean that this hugely pervasive sin that's in our culture isn't also sinful and deserves to be called out. There's a lot of fence sitters in evangelicalism, and they're always like, well, I don't like the way they said that or that. Well, I'm like, I don't care how they said it. I'll take these people who are preaching the truth and calling out sin from the other side that I think have abandoned the gospel, because I don't see them as on my team. They're not on the side of God because they've rejected the message of the Bible. They've rejected the ideas of God. And I don't care if they're a little rough around the edges. Jesus, we have, we think of him as like this emasculated man who just, walks around, says good things, and does some miracles, and that's all good. No, this guy, when the temple was wrong, he got a whip, and he starts whipping people and flipping tables over because they've made a mockery of the temple of God. That's Jesus. He's a man. He's calling, like, you have people coming to him, and he's calling them vipers. He's like, you brood of vipers, get away. Like, he calls whitewashed tombs. He's calling, like, these people who come to him and he's, like, he's calling them names. He's saying, like, you're evil. He's pointing out the hypocrisy of their way, and he's calling them evil. That's Jesus. That's not the disciples. That's Jesus who did that. We have in the Old Testament, the leaders in the Old Testament, that they'll kill people who have rejected God. We were just at my church talking in Numbers. We're going through a Numbers series, and the priest, he gets congratulated for going and stabbing this man who brought a Moabitess woman into the camp, and that's the cause of a plague that God had sent among the people as judgment for their sin against God. And so he goes, takes a spear, and stabs both of them through, ending the plague, because God said, okay, like, this evil sin has been called out and been dealt with. Good job, and so, like, was that winsome for him to do that? I don't know. Our modern culture certainly wouldn't like that, and I'm not saying that Christians should just go kill people. We live in a different covenant than they did. But yeah, like, we look at that, like John the Baptist. That's the picture on my channel. Like, he's calling Pharisees out. Like, he's like, the Pharisees come to ask him questions like, who warned you of the wrath to come, you brood of vipers? Like, his tongue was not held back. You have, like, ancient, or our church fathers. You have Athanasius. If you've ever read his critique against Arianism, it is crazy. I love Athanasius. He's quite the man. This guy's not holding his tongue when it comes to calling out the heretical teachings of Arian, or Arius. I think that's right. Martin Luther, my man. Even though he'd probably kill me, for being a heretic. I love Martin Luther. He was very meek and mild in the beginning, but once he stood up, he's like, it's over. Gloves are off. You've asked for this. Like, he's calling out the Catholic Church. He's for their disobedience to Scripture, for their oppression against God's people. He's doing all sorts of stuff, and like, he gets really crazy. Was Martin Luther winsome? The big Eva wouldn't think so today. Like, they'd be like, he's a little bit of a fanatic, and I agree, he went a little crazy in the end. But some of the things he did, like nailing his 95 thesis on the wall in Wittenberg, that's pretty ballsy thing to do. Calling out the Catholic Church, for its sin. That's the ruling class, and they probably called him not winsome, just in their own language or their own words. So yeah, like, Christians aren't called to be winsome. They're called to have the fruits of the Spirit. It's more of that God gives us the fruits of the Spirit. We're not actually called to take them up. They come to us. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are things that God gives us. These are gifts that God gives us as we grow in God. Winsomeness isn't in that. In fact, what does Jesus say? They will hate you. They hated me. They will hate you. They killed Jesus. So that probably means that they're going to kill us too if we preach the good news. So, Christian, if you are being persecuted for what you believe, for what you say, it's because you're following God. If the culture likes you, well, you might have a problem. Maybe either the culture is actually turned to God, which is great, or maybe it's that you've turned to the culture, and that's a dangerous place to be. That's a dangerous place to be. So, I'm not looking for somebody to be winsome. I'm looking for somebody to be a truth teller. I might not speak in the same way as some people. I might not say the same things or agree with everything they say. But my question is, are they telling the truth? Or are they doing damage to the gospel by telling lies. And that's a big distinction, because the liars, they're siding with the enemy, because the lies are always on the side of the enemy. And the fence sitters, what does Jesus say? Be hot or cold, lest I spit you out of my mouth for being lukewarm. That's a paraphrase, but he's basically say, don't be a fence sitter. Either side with me or side with the other team. It's your choice. But I'm not gonna fellowship with the fence sitter. He's gonna spit you out of his mouth. So pick a side, Christian. Are you gonna be with Christ and what the Bible says, or are you gonna reject the Bible and follow the world? So that's your choice. I can't make it for you. I pray that you make the right decision. And I think this whole winsome thing, though it is important, I think it's good to be winsome. I do. I think it's a good thing to be, to present yourself in a way that people are drawn to you, that it's attractive. I try to as best I can, but it's more important for them to hear the truth, because that's what saves. My winsomeness doesn't save people, but the truth does, namely Christ. So that's my thoughts on that. The false fruit of Big Eva, winsomeness. So let me know what you think. Have you heard that before? Leave in the comments. Let me know what you think about my arguments. Do you disagree with me? I'd love to hear what you think. Let's talk about it. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. Like the video if you enjoyed that discussion, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.